Story 1. The Thing in the Cornfield. I grew up in rural Wisconsin, where the nearest neighbor was a mile away, and the only thing separating our property from the next was a never-ending sea of cornfields. My parents owned a small farm, and as an only child, my chores often included walking the perimeter of our land to check the fencing and make sure no animals had gotten out. It was boring, but never scary. At least, not until that night. It was late August, during the peak of summer, when the humidity made the air thick and hard to breathe. My dad had noticed something strange. Our cows were acting skittish, refusing to graze near the edge of the cornfield. The dogs wouldn't go near it either. He joked that maybe we had a coyote problem. That evening, after dinner, I decided to check it out myself. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the fields. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the fence line, the cornstalks swaying gently in the breeze. Then I heard it, a rustling sound deep in the corn. Not the wind, something moving, something big. I stopped, shining my flashlight into the rows, expecting to see a deer or maybe a coyote. But what I saw wasn't either of those things. At first, it was just eyes, glowing amber, staring back at me from between the stalks. They were too high up to be an animal. My gut clenched, and every hair on my body stood on end. Then it stepped out. It moved in an unnatural way, hunched over but still towering above me. Its limbs were too long. Its hands, clawed, human-like hands, hung in front of its chest. But its head, it was unmistakably canine, with a long snout and rows of jagged teeth that glistened in the fading light. I was frozen in place. It was watching me, breathing heavily, its chest rising and falling in deep, slow movements. Then, it grinned. I don't know how else to describe it. The skin around its mouth pulled back, revealing every single one of those horrible teeth, like it was amused. That was when I ran. I bolted for the house, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst. Behind me, I heard it moving, crashing through the corn, keeping pace with me but never fully chasing. It was playing with me. I reached the porch and threw myself inside, slamming the door shut. My dad jumped up from his chair, startled. "What the hell's wrong with you?" he asked. I couldn't speak. I just pointed toward the window. He grabbed his shotgun and went outside, but whatever it was had already gone. The only sign that anything had been there were the deep claw marks scratched into the wooden fence. The cows never went near that part of the field again. Neither did I. Story 2. The Thing That Followed Me Home. I was 18 when I saw it. Back then, I worked the late shift at a gas station off a lonely stretch of highway in northern Minnesota. The kind of place where the only customers past midnight were truckers, drifters, and the occasional lost traveler. It was a boring job, but it paid enough to keep gas in my car and food in the fridge. One night, around 2 a.m., I was outside taking a smoke break. The night was quiet, the air thick with the scent of gasoline and asphalt. That's when I heard the sound, a low, guttural growl. I turned toward the tree line behind the station. The light from the building only reached so far, but I could see something standing just beyond the edge of the woods. It was massive, at least 7 feet tall, covered in thick, black fur. Its head was shaped like a wolf's, but its body was wrong, too broad, too muscular. It stood on 2 legs, its long arms hanging low, claws twitching. I dropped my cigarette. The thing tilted its head, like it was studying me. Then, slowly, it grinned. I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed by fear. But then, the store's automatic door opened behind me, and the sound snapped me out of it. I turned to see a customer walking out, oblivious to what I was seeing. When I looked back, the thing was gone. I convinced myself I had imagined it, that maybe I was just tired. But when my shift ended, and I drove home down that dark, empty road, I realized I wasn't alone. I kept seeing it, in my rearview mirror, on the side of the road, just beyond the reach of my headlights. A massive shadow, keeping pace with my car, watching me. I don't remember pulling into my driveway. I just remember sprinting inside, locking every door, closing every curtain. But that night, as I lay in bed, I heard it, scratching, long, slow scrapes against my bedroom window. I didn't look. I didn't move. I just lay there, heart hammering, until the sun finally came up. When I finally got the courage to check, the glass was covered in deep claw marks. I quit my job the next day. Story 3. The Howl in the Pines. I never believed in the legends of the Dogman, not until the night I came face to face with it. I was working as a seasonal park ranger in Michigan's Manistee National Forest, a place known for its dense trees and eerie isolation. One October night, as I was finishing my patrol, I heard a long, guttural howl echo through the trees. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a coyote. It was something else. Curiosity got the best of me, so I followed the sound, leading me to an abandoned hunting cabin deep in the woods. That's when I noticed the smell. Rotting meat, thick in the cold night air. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but when I stepped closer, I saw something that made my blood freeze. It was crouched over a freshly killed deer, its long, clawed hands digging into the flesh. At first, I thought it was a bear, but then it turned to face me. It stood up. It was at least 7 feet tall, covered in thick, matted fur. Its legs bent like a canine's, but its upper body was disturbingly human-like, too muscular, too unnatural. And its face, God, its face. A twisted snarl, glowing yellow eyes, and jagged teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then, it grinned. I ran. I sprinted through the trees, branches slashing at my arms, my breath burning in my chest. Behind me, I could hear it moving, fast. It was crashing through the underbrush, keeping pace, toying with me. I reached my truck, yanked the door open, and barely locked it before something massive slammed against the side. The whole vehicle shook from the impact. My hands fumbled for the keys as another heavy blow dented the door. Then silence. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, my breath ragged. The forest was still, like it had never been there at all. When the sun rose, I finally stepped outside. Deep claw marks raked across the truck's metal, proof that something real, had been there. I never went back to that part of the forest again.